Have you ever looked at your life and felt a quiet, suffocating panic that the real world is happening somewhere else without you? That while you sit at your desk, walk through your town, or labor over a single task, other people are living fuller, brighter, more meaningful lives just beyond the horizon. This is the quiet agony of chasing everything. A relentless race where every open door makes you feel trapped, and every choice feels like a funeral for the lives you decided not to live. In the coastal port of Aldermoor, where the tide met the rocky cliffside, Felix spent his youth believing that commitment was a cage. Felix was 28 with restless hazel eyes and hands that knew the basics of everything but the mastery of nothing. His small workshop sat on the harbor front, littered with the ghosts of abandoned pursuits. In one corner stood half-chiseled oak chairs, left unfinished the day he decided that stone masonry looked more noble. Beside the window lay rolls of navigational charts, discarded when he convinced himself that botany held the true secret to life. Every morning, the port came alive with ships setting sail for distant continents. From his window, Felix watched the white sails catch the dawn light. He listened to travelers, speaking of exotic spice markets in the south, ancient libraries in the east, and grand fortunes forged across the seas. Each ship that departed felt like a personal loss. When the eastern vessel set sail, a sharp ache seized his chest. If I stay here and carve wood, I am losing the wisdom of the east. But when a trader returned from the southern islands, laden with silk, Felix's heart sank again. If I study philosophy, I am missing out on the wealth of the world. His mind was constantly somewhere else. When he carved a piece of timber, he was not feeling the grain of the wood. He was worrying about the languages he wasn't learning. When he read a book on navigation, he was distracted by the craft he wasn't building. He was terrified that if he poured his entire soul into one thing, he would wake up decades later and realize he had picked the wrong life. So Felix chose the only compromise his anxious mind could bear. He chased everything. He woke before dawn to study trade ledgers. By noon, he was attempting to forge iron tools. By evening, he was sketching botanical drafts by candlelight. He ran from one half-built project to another, his energy scattering like dry leaves in the wind. Years slipped through his fingers like dry sand. One autumn evening, a heavy storm grounded all the ships in the harbor. Rain battered the tiled roof of the workshop as the old harbor master, Tobias, sought shelter from the wind. Tobias was an old man with deep wrinkles etched into sun-weathered skin and hands scarred by decades of pulling thick ropes. He stepped inside, shaking the rainwater from his heavy woolen coat, and quietly looked around the room. The workshop was a chaotic museum of beginnings. Hundreds of unfinished objects, carvings without faces, maps with unplotted routes, canvases with only the backgrounds painted. "You have started 1,000 lives, Felix," Tobias murmured softly, running a weathered hand across the jagged edge of an abandoned cedar cabinet. "Yet you have not lived a single one." Felix looked up, dark circles framing his bloodshot eyes. His voice was cracked with exhaustion. "I only wanted to make sure I did not miss the best life, Tobias. The world is so vast. There are so many possibilities. How can I pick one path when choosing it means losing 100 others?" The old sailor sat down on a plain wooden stool near the hearth. He listened to the rain tapping against the glass, letting the silence settle into the room before speaking. "When a captain sets sail for the northern lighthouse," Tobias said quietly, "he turns his back on the east, the west, and the south. He deliberately misses 1,000 islands so that he can reach one true shore." Tobias pointed to the half-finished cabinet beneath his fingers. "You think that by keeping all your doors open, you are staying free. But look at this room. You are not free, Felix. You are paralyzed. A man who tries to walk 5 roads at once never leaves the crossroads." Felix looked at his trembling hands, blistered from tasks he had abandoned halfway through. For the first time, he saw the truth beneath his anxiety. His frantic chasing wasn't a hunger for life. It was a fear of stillness. It was the terrifying belief that he wasn't enough where he was. "What if I choose one thing?" Felix whispered. "And it turns out to be ordinary." "Everything is ordinary from the outside," Tobias replied gently. "Depth is what makes it sacred. You cannot find depth in a life you only skim across the surface." That night, after Tobias left and the harbor fell quiet, Felix did not reach for his ledgers. He did not look at the charts of unseen lands. He walked to the corner of his workshop and picked up the half-carved cedar chair he had abandoned 3 years earlier. He ran his fingers over the rough, forgotten edges. He smelled the dry, sweet scent of the wood. He lit a single oil lamp, pulled up a stool, and picked up his carving chisel. His mind tried to pull him away. The ships are leaving tomorrow. Others are traveling. Others are becoming grander things. Felix took a slow, deliberate breath. He felt the cold iron tool in his hand. He felt the floor beneath his feet. For the first time in his life, he let the ships sail away without him. He surrendered the phantom lives he would never live and gave his entire existence to the single piece of wood in front of him. He carved one groove, then another. He listened to the steady, rhythmic scrape of steel against cedar. The frantic noise in his chest slowly dissolved into the quiet warmth of the workshop. He was not everywhere. He was simply here. And for the first time, it was enough. If you spend your life terrified of what you might be missing, you will miss the only life you were actually given. The secret to peace is not doing everything. It is having the courage to let the rest go.